Big retailers don't want you to have this zoom lens, but there's nothing they can do to stop it. So there's the...
There we go. Alright. Should be up and operational. We had another glitch. I'm still trying to work through those glitches. Right now I have to see if the audio is coming through.
Be up and operational.
And it is. Alright, huzzah. And it's Light, who says, Jib! Greetings, Light. Hope you're doing well. Interesting, the Ravens and the Eagle decided that they didn't want to leave. Okay, going to mute that. Should be good to go. Alright, so, greetings one and all. We are, for the most part, back. We've been out of commission for a while. We're not going to ever really truly be back to the amount of streams that there once was. But the goal is to try and get back to a dedicated 2 minimum, 3 average, 4 surplus, you could say, streams per week. Tonight is going to be casual artwork. I have no idea what it's going to be tonight. The goal of it, though, is to learn, to get better, and to get back into the swing of things. Objectives will start to resurface, as well as some pretty neat stuff, which are coming near the conclusion of all of their work. It's going to be even more epic than the story time that we did a little over a year ago now. It is going to be, at least in my perspective, pretty cool. Anyway, that is almost here, and I need some time to now refine it, now that my workload is starting to level out, and it will be fairly flexible hours for me from now until probably about the fall. So I'm going to try and take a couple of days to refocus, bring back the streams in full force, and hopefully ensure ways to prevent them from disappearing again. We'll wait and see if that actually happens. All right. So one of the things I do want to try and do tonight, so this isn't the main objective, but there's a couple of main things I want to try and pull off. I'm going to pull up my, let's see here, another slide here. So these are the main objectives for tonight. I want to work on a series of, oh golly, can't spell tonight. Series of sketches. I also want to do, if possible, I want to try to do maybe about a 10-frame animation. That's the goal for tonight. It's a loose goal. All right. So, tonight, let's start off by just getting some general ideas out there, and then try and gauge where to go from there. I'm gonna go stream Overwatch 2 for a bit. I'll see if I can join back later. Alright, Light, hope it goes well. And, see you later, if that so happens. If not, have a great evening. Overwatch 2. A lot of people I know that really enjoy that game. It didn't, the style was just a little too fast-paced for me. I am a bit out of practice for artwork. That's one of the reasons why tonight is casual in that sense. I need to get back into the swing of things. I want to be able to come up with swift sketches later on in the summer. All part of the next plan of projects that are coming out. It's going to require a bit of artwork, and you'll understand more when you see the projects announced. But now here's the conundrum, and I don't know how many people would think of this as being a challenge, basically a point of struggle, but it is for me, and that is trying to come up with a compelling product, so that way it just kind of flows out of the brain in a very smooth, easy manner. Now, I know a couple people, when they write or draw, they many times will just kind of call it good enough when they reach a certain level of complexity and just say, okay, that's enough, and they'll just kind of quit. They'll put it out on the page and they'll move on. That's not how my brain works. I'm very much the type of person who has, I know it sounds weird, but I draw and I write and I edit by feeling. That concept kind of came about a couple years ago when I realized that I would be working on a project, and I just had like this nagging that was like, I can't let it go. And so I would fight with it over and over, struggling to try and get it to work. And other people would come by, look at it and say, oh, that's perfect, that's fine, just let it go at that point. And I couldn't. I would go back and tear the whole thing apart, waiting until I got like that feeling that it was completed. I do not think that that necessarily is a good way to make projects, but it is how my mind works. I can't bring something to a conclusion until I get that sort of a feeling. Well, there's some projects that you can struggle with like that for years and years, and there's one project that continues to thwart me over and over again. Every time I try and break open the project and try and get it to that position of completion, or at least or that feeling that it can be completed, every time I've done that has been a failure. Well, another project, though, I hit that point of where it got that feeling that it is just about finished, and so I've been putting a lot of time and effort into making that a reality. That project I mentioned about on a stream a while back, and you all will hear about it relatively soon. Now that I'm going to be taking some time off, one of the main focuses will be to refine this thing to its completion, and then I'll put it out there. I've learned over the last couple of years, don't share the product until it's ready. I've learned that the hard way. But I still want to say there's something coming, and maybe in the future I won't even do that. Maybe I'll just say, surprise, here's something. And honestly, the next project probably will be that. But this one, I kind of felt like I needed to do this, or at least I have that itching to do it, because I realized that there's not much interest in that. If I just say, hey, surprise folks, I have something good to go, most folks won't even know that it's there. And in the end, they probably still won't. Now, there's been a lot of sketches I've done of beavers. I've done a lot of different variety of them, different styles. I'm exploring styles. I'm not trying to do the replicating style yet. I'm still trying to figure out a style that I really, really like. And one day, I hope to actually make a short with hand-drawn beaver characters. And it's one that I actually was starting to sketch when I was in my early teenage years, and I couldn't actually make it happen. I was not skilled enough, and I didn't have the right equipment. But I found out that I actually did have the equipment. I just didn't know how to properly do it. I didn't have the experience. Well, I still don't have the experience, but now I have the ability to start getting that experience. And so slowly, I hope that over the coming months, that I'll be able to actually get to that point of where I can actually do the beaver short. And I don't know what beavers are going to be there. There's a lot of different stuff I kind of want to explore with it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It does. That's goofy. Greetings, Bastion. It does. Why does it say that? Casual art. Very peculiar. Alright. Seems to have been corrected. Much appreciated there, Bastion. The light is gone. Poor Bastion. He's like a mole. He hates the light. How you doing tonight, Bastion? Been doing Rocket League, getting a Force Lightning booster. Do they have Spike Ball back? They have this game mode right now where the ball gets stuck to the so they did bring back Spike Ball. That is like the only game mode in on that I like really enjoyed. The other stuff was just, it was too competitive, too intense for the streams. But the Spike Ball, that was a fun one. If it's the same thing that I'm thinking about. It's Star Wars themed. Well, hopefully you can actually, fly. That'd be nice. Friday it ends. I wouldn't even be able to get it updated in time. It's one of the worst parts about having things updated. Is that they take up your bandwidth entirely. I just stopped updating Rocket League as a result. There's a lot of other games I also don't update. In fact, I've uninstalled like over half my games, which I never had a whole lot to begin with, but I uninstalled them because I just could not. It was like every time I would get ready for bed, I would be noticing that the data usage would just spike because they were trying to download so much content every single week. I was like, nope, I'm not going to have my internet bill go up just because a game wants to have their updated content. So now I'm updating every 2-3 iterations, if that. Why is my buttons not working? Still has battery. It's glitched. Oh, no, that's what okay, there we go. I accidentally hit number lock. I'm using one of these, so it the number lock sometimes can get caught by my finger and disable. I always forget to consider that as what has happened. A friend was gracious enough to give me his old Xbox. I freed up all the space Fortnite took up. Hey, bonus. Yeah, Fortnite takes up so much space. Of games that are data heavy, that's like got to be one of the highest in terms of just sheer gigabytes that it needs to get updated every single year. What I'm doing tonight is an exercise. I've done it before, and it helps out a lot. Actually, back when I was starting to consider the potential of Castercraft again, because I've had a couple iterations of trying to get it started. Well, back before I started streaming, I actually did a session kind of like this, and it was an attempt to try and reset my mind. To explore some ideas. And the ideas, while they've not actually come about into any physical product yet, it was the moment where I realized there was actually something there. And then I started compiling everything. I'm still in the process of compiling all the ideas that I've had over the years. And that's why this year is about trying to take those ideas and take them from the collection, into the public space. How to do that has been a challenge, and I would have been able to do it a lot faster if platforms had not started changing their rules. So a lot of the last year has actually been spent building my own platform, because I just got fed up of it. I was like, every time I would be using a platform, something would come along to thwart that platform. And finally I was like, well, I can try and force the point, or I can just go out and say, you know, I'm not going to rely upon anybody and just build it myself. Was it the smartest idea? No, I know it wasn't the smartest idea. Has it worked out? Not really. Does it have the potential of working out? Yes. And so that's what I've been working on the last 2 years. The next iteration of that is in the final stages. Right now I'm stress testing it. So basically during the weekend, I pull up the file and I just try and do things from start to finish. Go from point A to point B. And if there's any problems along the way, you address them. and there are a lot of bugs. I tell you what, it has been a very complex one because the amount of stuff you can do with it, it more than quadrupled. The amount of things you could do with the very first iteration of the website. It was basically just a Wix website. The second iteration was a programmed HTML file that replaced the Wix website, and now it is a full-on server of material and content with tools and some really sophisticated stuff in the back end that's all custom built. It took a long time to develop. It was fun to make, though. I will say that. A lot of it started out as like, I wonder if I can do something, and then found out along the way, yeah, the tools are actually there, and it actually is possible to pull off some of these things. And some things got put on the shelf for a full year, and I readdressed them recently, and like now they're working. So yeah, it's been a great update. And some people would say, well, what was the point? If you don't have anything on the platform, because it is very little material on the platform, if there's nothing on the platform, what was the point? Well, the point comes about with the fact that I have been studying independent creators. And you know what is interesting among all of them? They all have the same problem. They start making a product and they have nowhere to put it. They build it, they put it on YouTube, and it fails. They put it behind a locked third-party website, and they have problems. So many people just get started and then they have to quit because they don't have anywhere to put what they're doing. So, I approached it from the roundabout route. Fix the platform problem, then fill it with content, because I know I have content to put on there. But if I started just making the content, then I would be fighting in a panic frenzy to try and find some way to put it out there onto the web. Was it the smart idea? No. Has it worked out? Kind of. Only time will tell. There's always been something in the back of my mind. It's an idea about being the bad example. How many of us, if we had the opportunity to make the decision, would choose to be a bad example of what you're supposed to do? The Lord entrusts you with a task, with an opportunity, and when push comes to shove, you fail. And you become an example of what happens when you squander something. I've been considering this for some time, because I've been watching people in my sphere, in my among the circle of friends that I've had, of colleagues that I've had in the past, and watching how they've grown, watching where they've gone with their projects and their material. And you know what's really interesting about it? A lot of them have served as a warning, a red flag of beware. There are problems this way. Tread carefully, that sort of thing. I didn't go to Hollywood because of that. I saw people that they went to Hollywood, and things did not turn out so well for them. They were exploited. They lost job opportunities before they even had a chance to find their footing. They compromised their values. A lot of terrible things happened with them. And I was left with this realization that that we'd never know if that's going to be our lot until we're there. One of my prayers is that I don't ignore the warnings that God puts in my path. I have messed up many times in my life. And it's always in my mind of that. Try and do your best, but also don't compromise. Don't create a situation where you're going to have to compromise and thus maybe become a negative example to others about the path that you've chosen. I see that there is great potential down this path of media creation, but it's not panned out. It's made me wonder if part of it is that it's not meant to happen. And if it's not meant to happen, the only thing I want is that it's not a disgraceful sort of conclusion to the story, but rather an encouraging one. So I have no idea about these projects, if they will pan out or not. I can no longer really make predictions whatsoever. But should they pan out, should some of the opportunities come to fruition, it will not be because of my own doing. It won't be because of my own work. Because when I look at my friends and colleagues that I've had over the past, by all accounts, I should have petered out. I should have not been able to proceed forward with a lot of projects. Now, granted, I've not really had any success to say that I am I've not had success, unlike friends that have had success. But neither have I stumbled horribly. Oh, I've stumbled all right, but I've not fallen and not been able to get back up, or been lifted back up. But whether there is success or failure, I want it to be that I approach it honorably. These streams, they're not necessarily anything that I put a whole lot of stock in. I don't think about how, they're going to be like, they're not going to reach the thousands of people that streams once upon a time could have reached. Our culture has changed. My desire for success is not that streams or videos or projects actually find success. What I will consider a success is whether or not the material reflects the lessons that I feel like God has taught me throughout life. Everything has to have a purpose, and everything must help to encourage people in their journey of faith. These beavers, for example, when I first had the idea, I wasn't able to act upon it because I didn't have a compelling story. So whereas somebody else would have said, by all means just churn something out and then figure it out along the way, I couldn't ethically do that because down deep, I could not do that until I had a compelling narrative that would actually reflect a life lesson, a value. Well, now that the series of stories do exist, I have them figured out. I have to finish writing them, though. Then I have to storyboard them, or if they're not going to be storyboarded, then I have to at least figure out what sort of medium they're going to be presented in. It could be a children's book, honestly. I wouldn't be opposed to that. It takes some effort to try and learn, but then again, animation would take some effort to learn as well. But I wanted it all to have a story that had to do with a lesson of either faith, family, or honor. Try and tie them all together is a gold standard. There's another series of characters, some 3D fish that I've created. And I already have a couple of stories. It's just not a whole lot of them. I've struggled with that one to try and come up with compelling stories that teach a life lesson. And so I have three stories that I wanted to try and tell, but it may take some time to get to that point. Greetings, White Wolf. How are you doing? I am way out of practice. It has been taking me several months to be able to get back around to doing artwork, doing animation, and I can feel it. I can feel the lack of skill. And I've been making videos during my regular work, but the types of videos are very, very different. And so thus the techniques that I need for some of these ones have kind of been out of practice. I got one more series of trips I have to do this month. This month or next month? I can't remember. And that one's going to be a fairly intensive journey as well. After which, hopefully I'll be able to finish up the projects into a satisfactory form before the fall. The summer is all about trying to bring those projects to some sort of conclusion. The projects that have been in the works for a while. I like how that form fits. I'm going to have to keep refining this character a little bit more each day until it's at a workable point for an animation. But I think this actually has some merit going with this sort of structure. It's using a beanbag sort of technique. I'm not very good at it. I need to practice this technique more. And then hopefully, by the time we get to November, December, I can actually start planning the actual official short. Or book, or, whatever it ends up being. A children's book would be far faster to create. Wouldn't quite capture the look and the feel that I think that an animated short would have, but it might be more compelling if it is a children's book. One day it would be nice to have a large tablet. It'd make a lot of this artwork easier. But rather than make that investment, I've actually been putting more time and effort into trying doing physical art. And you know what is interesting? The need for digital art isn't very high right now. The look and the feel of it is still very nice, and I do like it. But AI has made it very tough to kind of really do and feel like you have the chance to make anything that people would actually value. Man, I hate AI. I hate it with a deep passion. The more I learn about it, the worse my opinion of it becomes. And I actually know how to create an AI at this point. Like, I studied a little bit of the ins and outs of how AI functions because people started challenging me, saying, you can't hate it if you don't understand it. So I decided to accept the challenge, and so I went out and I learned the basics of the coding. I learned about the gradients and the noise distribution. And you know what's interesting? It is stupidly simple. Like, compared to what I thought it would be. But the thing that I can't stand about it is it's an abomination to life. It's kind of ironic. Mankind doesn't know when to stop. And we have made several mistakes throughout human history. And you know what's sad is that despite all of the warning signs throughout history, people are not catching a clue on AI and the danger that it poses. Alright, Light said she might come back. I'm going to hit the hay. Night, everyone. See you, Bastion. Thanks for coming by. Rest well, sir. And we'll see you next time, whenever that is. But anyway, I saw some folks really just kind of desperately longing for the AI to take off. And they started saying, hey, you know what? Artwork is dead. Forget it. There's no more need for it. And in many ways, they're right. The AI has gotten good enough not to replace artists, but to replace the desire to have an artist. The people that paid for the commissions, they don't care anymore. Oh, the average person does still care about physical art. They care about the handcraftedness, but the person who's making the commission, they don't care. In fact, they downright hate traditional art because it couldn't create their ideal, it couldn't capture everything that they wanted. And in the end, people that commissioned art weren't very artistic to begin with. But now, they have been given a tool for them to think that they have the artistic skill. And some of them have used it to terrible effect. One guy hired artists all the time. And what I didn't know is that he actually hired a lot of very inappropriate artists. Well, he paid a massive amount of money for that sort of stuff. Greetings there, Light. Welcome. How was Overwatch? Says Light. Still thinking about whether or not you had fun. Is that it? Hopefully it's not a communication bug. You know, I've seen the notifications every now and again when you go live. Unfortunately, always a really difficult times for me to stop by. But I need to make the concerted effort to stop by sometime and see how you're doing. Make sure you're staying nice and civil. Overwatch 2 was fun. A bit of ranked, not the most civil moments, I'll admit. We got a problem there, Light. You need to be more civil to those that you're engaging. You know, at least it sounds like they were still enjoyable. In a few weeks, I'm going to be traveling to northern Alaska. I'll be sure to mention about the journey later on. It's not the first time I've been up there. It's at least better than going to the East Coast, which I was at just recently. And man, it was muggy, it was hot, and the air, it just felt like you were in a damp rag everywhere you went. So muggy. I'm used to being up here in Alaska where, let's say that you spilled this cup of water onto the floor. That water would be there for about a day. And by the end of the day, all of that water will have evaporated. It is so dry up here. That's what happens. Down in Virginia, I spilled a little bit of water, and it was there for 2 days. And I finally looked down and it's like, oh, I forgot that you're supposed to clean this stuff up. Because I'm so used to Alaskan sort of climate. It will take care of itself. These sketches, by the way, will, even though there's no real plan for some of them, they all contribute to an idea. And this is about trying to build up a culture, you could say. I have the idea in my mind of what I want to be, but trying to visualize it is actually quite challenging. And you can have the idea in your mind, and then the moment you start putting pen to paper or stylus to tablet, that idea starts getting challenged. And after a while, you realize, wait a minute, it's not so easy to try and bring this culture to reality. And then you get a little discouraged with it. Well, by doing things like this, it helps you to learn some basic ideas of world building, and then it becomes a little bit easier to try and envision the storylines and how they're going to pan out. By the way, I have 3 pieces of artwork of these beavers that are finished, that are like pieces of artwork that I'm going to be putting onto a market area. They're going to be little stickers that you can buy. If you're part of the Silverado group, you're able to redeem it instead. But there will be a couple more things like that. None of these are going to be on there. They are going to be far more refined. But right now, the goal is to try and make sure that there is going to be a couple that get added each year. And then hopefully after some time, I'll get a chance to really build up a collection. The goal is to make around 40 of them. And right now I'm just at 3. Well, technically 4. But that got put on hold as I was trying to get the website up and operational. But once the first projects come out, then the rest of them will be the rest of the drawings will kind of be interspersed throughout the year as I try and get the other things up and operational. By the way, if you find any of the art interesting or some of the ideas interesting, consider liking. And if you don't like it, feel free to hit the dislike button. It at least tells me that you're flesh and blood when you pass by. And so, that'd be most appreciated. I'm here, says Pantheon. Greetings, Pantheon. How are you doing, sir? It's been a while. I've been traveling and focusing on work, and so I haven't been online a whole lot. Just setting up stuff. Have you got any new renders that you've completed? I sent a clip of my stream on Discord. Oh, wait a minute. What the? Oh, okay. Huh. Just got another message. Boy, my communications are starting to fire up quite a bit lately. It's actually kind of nice to see again. All right, let's see what this shenaniganry of light includes. All right, let's be sure to turn up the quality on this. No, don't operate yet. Don't operate yet. Don't play. No spoilers. Have to get the sound working. Okay, ready? Mute that. Unmute this. All right, time to see this epic gameplay by Light. Ooh, that's a lot of light.
You were not. Oops. Wrong button. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh, wait. Gotta back that one up.
Ankle. Oh my god! Oh my god! A broken ankle!
Very nice. All right, bring back the music here. Broken ankles. Light, don't go breaking your ankles. Where's an ankle? I guess all I got is a foot. There we go. Yeah, I'm making a Jack in the Box at the moment. Want to see a picture? Absolutely. Feel free to send that, sir. All right. Grab this and... Ooh, look at that gear system. Uh-oh. Wrong button. Yeah, that's looking nice. Love the addition of the textures on there. It's fully animated, but just a quick shot. Excellent. So, what inspired this Jack in the Box? Just came into my head and had to make it. Hey, that's kind of similar to what I'm doing right now. Sometimes you just got an idea, or you come up with the idea along the way, and you're like, hey, let's see what that looks like. So one of the great things about casual creativity, when you're not under pressure to try and do something as a product or for a client, it gives you the chance to explore some ideas that no one would probably want you to have the chance to build upon. Not a whole lot of people are going to come out and say, hey, can you create a Beaver series for us? But it gives me a chance to tinker with it in my own time, at my own leisure. Sometimes coming up with kooky looking drawings like this. Plus it's steampunk. Ah, yes. All right, a lot of my energy went into that screaming. IEP. Good night. Bye-byes. Good night, light. God bless, and we will see you next time, whenever that is. You know, it's kind of interesting. I put on that little tagline to send-offs a while back, and it actually has some deep meaning behind it. See, a couple of years ago, I knew a couple of folks, and that I thought for certain we were going to be doing all sorts of activities together. I thought for certain. And they thought for certain too. What ended up happening, though, was quite the opposite. Over the span of months, we went from being likely business partners in video production to not estranged, but more like just distant colleagues. We never actually made anything together after a project went south. And so we had this kind of idea of that, oh, well, you know, we'll carry on at some time. And the time frame kept extending. It got longer. The wait got longer. And eventually I started realizing this isn't happening. Or if it does happen, something pretty drastic is going to have to happen to change things up. We have no idea what tomorrow holds. We don't even know what 5 minutes holds from now. You have to be able to enjoy the time that you have, and also look forward to the times that are to come. But don't bet on those times that are to come. You don't know what they're going to hold. Things may pan out. Things may not. There's a couple of people that used to come to these streams a lot. Some of them almost every day. They're not here anymore. And that number is actually quite large. And I started saying that send-off because I started noticing people disappearing. There was one person who left a long time ago, early on in the streams. And I thought, that was one of those people that I thought for certain, oh yeah, see you next time. And next time never came. And I realized they dropped off. I've not heard a word from them in about a year and a half. I don't know if they're well. I don't know if they're poor. I don't know if they... I don't even know how to contact them in many ways. People will come and go into your life, and you don't know when the last time's going to be. You don't know when the next time will be. It could be tomorrow. It could be 10 years from now. You don't know. Now, there are a lot of people that you will meet years down the line. And it shocks you because you thought for certain that they were gone. And then suddenly there they are again. I've experienced that before. Not necessarily for myself, but I know a lot of people who have had that experience. And I have some family friends that was kind of the case. Okay, gotta lurk. Going to fire up and get this box done. Much love, brother. I'll be lurking. Thank you, Pantheon. Thanks for the lurk, and hope that you find some good success with your project. So you never know when that time is going to be. And so, by saying, see you next time, whenever that is, thank you for your awesome. You're too kind, sir. Really, you are. So you never know. You never know when that time will be. Well, by saying, see you next time, whenever that is, what that does is that starts to open it up to that possibility that you don't know. And, but it's also not demanding. It's not saying, oh, you better show up. It's not saying that, I know for certain. It holds open that possibility that you never know. And you just gotta accept the time that you have. You're very kind, sir. Very kind indeed. I'll be stopping by on, if you're going to be streaming, I'll be sure to stop by later on when we come to the conclusion of this project. Well, there was a professional guy. Just have fun, indeed. There's a professional guy that I met a couple of years back, just before I got into streaming. Very professional, top-notch material that he made. And that was another person I thought for certain I would see again. I thought for certain we were going to be working on a project together. And we started. And it never materialized. But you know what is interesting? That's one of the people I just have this gut feeling like I'm going to see again. Because, like, our paths keep crossing. Not much is said. Barely even acknowledgement. But you know, it's that sense that that person is there. And then one day, you know that is an opportunity to try and reach out again. It's kind of an awkward time right now to try and reach out. But that won't be the case forever. And later on this year, that might actually be a time to reach out and kind of see how he's doing. And also try and see if there's a way to try and resurrect one of the projects. We'll see. We will see. Try and make this hair a little messy, like he's floating underwater. Give myself some more water before continuing. All right, I'm back. One of the projects that is going to be revealed in the next few weeks is a story, a short story, one that has been on my mind for a long time. In fact, I could actually find one of my very first drawings, one of my first attempts of trying to do a realistic looking drawing. From when I was about the age of 13. That's how long that I've kind of had this idea. It never quite materialized until about 3 years ago. That's what a lot of my ideas ended up being. And by the way, this is like a good reason why you should never stifle a kid's imagination, because my imagination would have been considered silly and nonsensical to many people. They would have looked at it and said, what's the point? The kid is doing sketches that have absolutely no purpose, is coming up with weird stories that don't quite have any sort of real refinement, and they would have just written me off. By the way, I say that they would have because some of them did. I had people that were very, very discouraging in that sense. They're like, that's nonsense. Don't even try. You're just a kid. You know what's fascinating now? Years later, a lot of those ideas that I had in my childhood are now the backbone for all of my major projects. Every last major project got its roots when I was a kid. And some of them are very mature sort of subjects. The short story that's coming out is one such story. It's a very simple story, but the weight of what is conveyed is very heavy. And it's done in a way that I hope will convey the concept in an appropriate way. Hopefully that works out. I'm going to have someone try and edit it for me, just because I know that my writing skills are not great. Even if the idea is good, you want the writing style to be good, so that way people don't discount it and miss the narrative. But anyway, so now that story is a reality. It's like 95% complete. I've just been in iterations of trying to refine the wording of it to make sure it's, high quality. But that story came about when I was a kid, when I was 13 years old. And I wrote down the idea and I stored it. Well, it's been on the back of my mind for a long time. I could never quite figure out the story I wanted to tell with it, because I could tell that there was a story that could be told, but I didn't know what the story should have been. That is the part that suddenly came into reality a couple years back. And even though it's a very short story, I think it's about a 20-minute read, it has had years of contemplation. But that came about. There's another story, a science fiction story, one that I think has a whole lot of potential. But that story came about again when I was a kid. And I have the very first drawing that I did of it, and I couldn't figure out how to tell a story with it. People looked at it and it's like, that's weird. Why does it look like... And I won't mention it because I want it to be a major surprise when I reveal it. They're like, that looks like two sci-fi stories merged together. And I didn't know how to convey the idea. It's like, I can tell there's a story here. I just can't figure out the right way to tell it. Well, during the last couple of years, I found that story again. And I was looking at it, trying to think about how do you tell that story. And I decided to sit down for an afternoon and just troubleshoot it, see what would happen. And it's like the floodgates opened. And suddenly a story that I could not convey the ins and outs of suddenly became real. And you know what's fascinating? It would not have happened if I was not working at my current job. Actually not just that. The past 2-3 jobs. Well, 2-3 of the jobs that I've had in the past all contributed to this. Some jobs that I really did not like. Some jobs that were just kind of benign. Other jobs that were fascinating, but I couldn't figure out how it would actually contribute. Well, now it's there. The story's not even 10% finished. It's a big story. But it is something where that story now exists in my mind because of past events. But as a kid, I didn't have those experiences to draw upon. I could just tell that there was a subject there. So even if a kid has an idea, like, hey, I got an idea, I have this idea for this sci-fi story, and they're all excited about it, don't just look at him and say, that's a dumb idea. Don't do that. Say, that's interesting. I wonder where you'll take that story. Don't encourage him to just give up on it. And also don't feed him with a delusion. Don't do that either. Let them find the story. Let them find the product. Let them find the innovation. You don't know how that stuff's going to contribute. You don't know how their life is going to create those childhood ideas into a reality. Suddenly, they're no longer childish. And suddenly, they're professional, they're mature, and they're grown up. Just like how that kid has grown up. Encourage one another. But don't blindly don't blind somebody and give them the delusion that somehow they're greater than they actually are. Because that can be just as devastating. And I saw that actually pan out with a student. Years ago, when I was at college, there was a student who no one could compete with how skilled this student was. Well, in the opinion of many people there. Like, this student is going places. This student has all the ideas. This student is the future of the department's alumni. By the way, my school won't even contact me. Not like I would really give them the time of day. My experience at college was not good. So thus I will never actively encourage people to go unless they feel convicted that they have to go, that they will benefit from it. Go if you feel convicted. Don't go just because someone tells you to. But anyway, when I was at college and the student was considered the cream of the crop, this student ended up getting all the, you could say, all the funds of the department to do whatever they wanted. No project was too small. Everything was permissible for the student, basically. Everyone bent over backwards to make sure that this student found success. All the other students would participate. The student won awards. That student got a massive amount of financial aid, of opportunities, of internships. And I did not. Now, would things have been different if our roles had been reversed? Yes, that would have been. But I don't think it would have been better. Either for myself or... well, for myself, it would not have been better. See, God puts us on a path that He knows will teach us and train us to become unique and special in His sight. We are not meant to inherit everything that we want. If we do, then many times we will become resentful, despite even having everything. That student that got it all, I have not heard anything out of them in years. They went to the industry and they got out. Should have been making high quality films, working as the head of a station, anything. That person went into wedding photography and got out and never went back, as I understand. And last I checked, was not even working in the industry. All the finances, all the acclaim, all the encouragement, and not even in the field 10 years later. So, did the finances help, or were they a shackle? Was the praise an encouragement or a shackle? I think it's whatever you want it to be. If you get praised, You need to remember to be humble. If you receive, you need to remember to still be merciful. If you find success, you need to remember not to gloat. I bring that up because a lot of my life story is built upon tough experiences. There's a lot of things I've learned the hard way, and I'm not resentful for it. I actually think that it happened for a reason. And there's a lot of those experiences now, both good and bad, that I can pull from as inspiration. I'm glad I had those challenges. I'm glad that things never quite panned out. Because in the end, I'm not meant to be compared to the success of another student. Neither are you supposed to be compared to your friends, your family. You are to be compared to what God wants for you. He will make you into something wonderful. You're not competing against mankind. What you're competing against is the best and the worst version of who you could be. What sort of man, what sort of woman are you going to be? Success does not bring about the praise of man. Success does not bring about the finances and the wealth of earth. The praise that you want is the praise from heaven. The treasure that you get is the treasure to come. A heavenly treasure, a heavenly praise. Those are the things worth having. You're not competing against others to get that. You're competing with yourself. The sinful nature versus the nature that wants to be righteous. Paul mentioned about that, about this challenge of trying to live in a fleshly body that has fleshly desires, but also that is in control of spirit. The spirit that controls it, that has spiritual desires. It's a contrast. Doesn't matter how you rank up compared to this world. But if you fail on the spiritual side, when you have the ability to thrive, that's the part that's going to eat at you. Doesn't matter whether or not you had somebody that maybe was a potential rival, like kind of like what I had. Doesn't matter. Even if it did matter once upon a time, it doesn't matter after much time. It eventually starts to fade, and you start to realize they were never competition to begin with. And sure, did they get benefits? Yes. But what if that was a test? What if it's a test for both of you? To have one person that was given all, and the other person that was given none. You know, what I was given was not necessarily finances. I wasn't given opportunities. I was given opportunities to learn in a different way than what the school permitted. I was the one always challenging the status quo. I was the one who was trying to break out new techniques. Those skills were learned because things were not handed to me in the same sort of way. That's because God knew how I grew best. He knew that if I didn't have the bare minimum, I wouldn't be able to find the same level of inspiration. Now it's yet to be seen whether or not it will actually pan out. Will these skills actually contribute to anything? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's not guaranteed. That's why I've told several people in the past, if you see pride, remind to try and break someone of that. Because in the end, the desires of this world will continue to hound you. And you will want to get the things of this world. It doesn't change no matter where you are, no matter what status you're in. In the end, I would love to still create a Disney-like studio. That has never changed. I would love to be able to do it. I have all sorts of ideas I would love to do. But you know what? It's not meant to be unless God so desires it. And if it is something that comes about and He doesn't desire it, well, probably not going to turn out so well. Sure, you could find some success. Some success. But, it's not going to last. There was a moment in Walt Disney's life. I was reading his biography, and there's a moment that made me shudder. He was in his in his bed, and his family was recounting the joy that he had. He had just opened Disneyland, and in his hands he was clutching the map of the park. And he was sleeping soundly, excited, overjoyed at the success that he had brought about. Not long after, he ended up perishing. Before he could envision his next great achievement. It's a reminder that we are on this earth for a very short time. He has now, Walt Disney, he has generations worth of praise. He can't hear it. But the things that he has done, which there were some good things that he did, there were some things that he did that also were not good. I hope and pray that the things that we don't know, that there was good things that he would get that he will get praise for from heaven. Because it doesn't matter all the praise of mankind. His products, his company has fallen apart without him. They don't have the same vision that he did. They don't have the same heart that he did. He was human. And as such, his followers, his descendants, and his caretakers, and those that would inherit his kingdom are also human, subject to the desires of mankind. If you find success, keep it back with a 10-foot pole, maybe longer. Remember that it is a temptation that few of us will ever have to deal with. The temptation of success and power. I've been wondering about this for a long time, and actually there's a story that I hope to tell one day about this concept. I've heard people write about it. I've heard people talk about it, but I've not seen a whole lot of people give a satisfactory summary of it. I hope to do that one day, God willing. If I was to ask you what the strongest and most evil temptation is, a lot of people would say, oh, it is the love of money. Oh, it is the desire for lust. It is gluttony. People go down the list of all these terrible sins. But you know what very few people touch on is power. Power is the worst of temptations, in my personal opinion. It technically could be argued that that was the first sin. A desire to upgrade, to become more powerful, to become, as the serpent was trying to deceive, become like God. Right now we have an entire nation that is full of scientists, full of politicians, full of military personnel, who all have this desire for power and control. It doesn't matter who's in charge. The temptation of power is the call of a siren, and it is powerful. It is shocking how little we understand about that form of temptation. And I've been wondering about this because I've seen moments in people's lives where they start to feel that temptation for power. You can see it in the fantasy of, you know, if I was king for a day. And I know that's kind of I'm not saying people that say that are in that desire for power. But what I am saying, I've seen some people that say things akin to that. They start to fantasize what they would do if they had power. You know what's interesting? The desire for power almost always results in a plethora of sin. Comes down to, I want it to be as I will. Not what God wills, but what I will. And that's dangerous. You are a servant of God. You shouldn't be trying to be a servant of yourself. That's trying to usurp. There's few things in nature as terrible as trying to usurp a position that you are not ordained for. Power starts to come out in the form of a desire for wealth, coveting, and extreme versions of lust. A desire for immortality, as many rulers have sought. A desire to rewrite the rules of nature, foolishly, because it never works. In the end, those who are bitten by the desire for power have terrible, terrible ends. But we don't hear about it a whole lot. And the reason why is because we, for the most part, are disconnected from it. People like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, those people have to deal with the desire and the lust of power far more than the rest of us. I would dare say when we have a lust for power, it's like a child thinking that somehow stealing from a cookie jar is the same as robbing a bank. You can have the desire for power, you can have the lust for power, but it doesn't really bite you until you have the means to do terrible things. So don't wish for power. Don't wish for success. Wish for honor. Desire the power to do right when others don't. To make a stand when others refuse. To show mercy when others refuse it. Those are the things you should want. Not power. Not wealth. Not lust. Not even legacy. Because legacy can also become a desire. And honestly can become a temptation in the wrong circumstances. Sorry for the long rambling. Once we finish this one, I'm gonna be calling it there. I can feel myself starting to slip. I'm not able to stay up as late now that I've changed my hours. That's why we start earlier. Greetings there, Rico. How are you doing, sir? Look at those web feet. Yes, indeed. Nice and webbed. He has the ability to stay down underwater for a very long time. He comes with his own proper footwear, but if only he had the ability to stay underwater naturally. Oh, wait. What's going on with you, Rico? How has married life been over the last couple of months? Well, it has been a busy last couple of months. Very busy. Remember that project that I mentioned about a while back about the drawings? That project blew up. It became a massive story. And so I've been in the process of trying to get that done as well. So it's almost there. I'm in the process of editing and trying to refine the last bit of it. I don't know if it's going to begin getting drawings at this point just because it is so large. We're talking about something that if it was to be drawn, it would have to be like if it was a graphic novel, for example, it would be a substantial book. The amount of text in there is, I think I calculated it out that it's going to be around about 3/4 of the of like a Harry Potter book. So yeah, it's out there. Applied for substitution for teaching. Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned something about that. Did it pan out? Well, you're right now, I think the only person on these streams that actually knows what that project is right now. I'll be announcing it here in about a couple of days. Hopefully, I'm taking some time off to try and finish things up. At which point, then I'll make a final decision what how the final product is going to be made. Yeah, I would love to do like an animated feature of it because I think it would be so cool. But it had been impossible, at least with my current finances. I have the ability now to like do small commissions. I've been saving up for a long time, but nothing to be able to pull off like an animated mini series like that. I hope to be able to do that one day though. To just say, hey, we're gonna make a mini series and then pay for it. It'll be a while till I can do something like that. Yeah. All things in their due time. Filling out paperwork tomorrow. My last job I had didn't work out, so seeking new opportunities. Understand, man, it is There are a lot of people right now that are struggling with work, either trying to find it or trying to maintain it. Alas, it is a real difficult sort of culture to try and find work in right now. Good luck to you, sir. I'll be praying that you find some success with that. You know, the very first drawing that I did on this tablet was actually of a beaver holding up his webbed feet. And it's kind of funny that I did far better on that one for webbed feet than I am right now. And that was years ago. But then again, I also took way more time to like refine it. I took days to finalize it. However, lately I've been getting back into digital and working on comic book panels. Very nice. Trying to maintain a sense of handmade art in a world of AI is proving very difficult. And so the fact that you still persist in that journey is encouraging, because man, there are a lot of people that are just willing to throw in the towel and say, nope, AI is won, and they don't even try. There was a comic that I saw a couple of years back. It was, it had a lot of promise, I will say that. But the person who was doing it had no morals whatsoever. And and it showed in his product, didn't quite pan out. So despite having done everything by hand, and especially in a time when people were telling him to go with AI, it was unfortunate that he still didn't understand the importance of values and morals. So as I understand, his product never quite took off. Maybe it has since then. I've not been checking. But I have been finding it fascinating, the number of people that have attempted to try and create products and a lot of graphic novels, but yet they lack the one thing that really matters the most, and that is a sense of well, in my opinion, a sense of honor and wisdom in the desire to tell something compelling and wise. Yeah, my primal instincts kick in when I draw, so I don't need that airline stuff. Oh, AI stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that AI nonsense it's ridiculous. It's so frustrating. It's like the thing that there's so many people, they keep hoping and wishing that AI is going to just transform their world. You know, it's not working. Nobody is happy with it. And the people that are developing it are just like, yeah, it is going to destroy the world. So what? It's like, hey, maybe you missed the memo. If you know it's going to cause problems, maybe you should stop. Oh, but then the Chinese will get ahead. Well, they're going to lose their culture if that's the case. I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon. And I think a lot of people building AI right now are going to be seen as the bad guys in the future. And they're going to be treated horribly by those of us that come out on the other side. And are like, well, you guys intentionally were trying to cause pain and suffering. It's going to happen. The way that culture is set up, you can't just assume that this stuff is, not going to have consequences. And right now, there seem to be a lot of people with very strong opinions on it that are starting to wake up to the danger. Now, I'm more tempered in many ways on the matter, but there are some people, they're losing their jobs and they're snapping. You got to find a way to help those people. Otherwise, they're going to get all the more angry as time goes on. And I don't think it's going to help anybody. There's a guy that I know, he's lost his job to AI. And people came along and said, oh, well, you should start using AI. So that way, you still have a job when everyone else loses a job. But yet, the more he started realizing not long ago that the more that he uses it, the better that it becomes. And so thus, technically, by using it, he's, sealing away his own fate in that sense. He's kind of learning that a little too late. Need to practice that line work in digital. Your scuba beaver is making me jealous. We all got a skill set, and that skill set will keep growing. I look at this, and I wish I could do better. Because in the end, as an artist, you're always wanting to go to the next level. That's good. It gives you drive to want to keep improving. It's the people that just assume that, oh, I'm the best artist in the world. And then they go out and they say, okay, I'm going to draw you the best picture in the world. And they say that that's somehow, special. And there are people like that in the world. Because there are people, they'll say, I'm an artist. And then they'll sell that for like $1 million. Nonsense. And that's that artist mind talking. Yep. Don't let it eat at you, let it motivate you. Sometime later on this year, I hope to be able to know whether or not the ability to actually do the beaver short that I kind of want to do is possible. Otherwise, it's going to have to be a children's book. That might be the best option, honestly. But it's not something I'm very familiar with. So it'll take some getting used to if that's the case. Especially since it's kind of a very visual story. And not a whole lot of talking in it. To have a narrator would be really odd. What did you end up naming the mascot? You know, it's kind of interesting. I still don't have a name for him. I've been debating names for a while now, but because I've not actually made the first product with it, I've not done that. It's whatever the name ends up being, it has to have deep meaning to it. I overthink everything. And so, like for example, there's a character in an upcoming story that has the name Simon. And the name actually is referring to a feature on his face. And so if you know the name Simon in its root meaning, then it starts to tell you a little bit about the character. There's things like that. I want the name to have deep philosophical or cultural meaning, something that inspires, something that it can be used for humor, something that matches. Kind of like the character for the Snowball stuff. Right now, that character's going by the name Sven. That may change, but right now, that's the best name I can figure out right now. I went through about 100 names trying to come up with something. I finally settled on Sven of all things. But there's actually a deeper meaning behind that. And so it's trying to find things like that that will fit for this beaver character. Right now, he's just known as Beaver. I feel like you're an epic kind of guy, so the name will be epic. You know, very kind, sir. One thing I can't stand is when people come along and say, "Oh, we're going to tell you about how great our group is, so we're going to put in the name," and for no reason whatsoever, we're going to put in the name epic into everything. It's like, why? Do you literally have to come out and spell it out that something's epic? And it's like, there's many more creative ways to do that. And so to have names with deep meaning behind it, it actually has a lot of merit. Like, for example, the character Milo didn't start out as Milo. It actually started out as the name Marlowe. And because of a misunderstanding the name changed. And I just kind of rolled with it. But something transformed with the character as well, because the name Marlowe actually had kind of a throwaway element to it. When it got changed to Milo, it took a whole different name, sort of meaning to it. And suddenly, it conveyed how the character was going to be. So sometimes a name can drive the character. Sometimes the character drives the name. This beaver, I don't know what it's going to be. I need to sit down this summer and like just bang out ideas. Because I do want him to have a role with this next year. I do want, by the time we come around to Christmas, that there is like a definitive name and project that's in the works with him. By the way, the website's almost done, and of which, for anybody that's curious, there will be regular updates about the projects over there. I've not been putting them on social media, mostly because I don't like how social media keeps scraping information. And so that's one of the big reasons why I don't put updates out there. But they will appear on the website, and they're going to be allergies. And they are going to be regular-ish. And hopefully I can be able to start bringing more people on board onto the projects. And so that way, they can actually really start growing. All right, time to shade this guy. But yeah, there's a lot of neat things that website's going to make possible, and I very much hope that it pans out. But I'm not holding my breath. Things like that, when I've worked on that sort of stuff in the past, it can be successful for a time and then it falls apart. And so I've been very careful with this whole process, because I realize that it will take just one moment for everything to collapse. And so, because it's so fragile to begin with, I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch. If they hatch at all. I got the name. Maximus Ellie. Mad Maxi. Maxi the Third. Maximus Eli. Mad Maxi the Third. There we go. His name's a mouthful. That's part of the gag. There was a project that I worked on when I was a kid. It kind of goes with what I was mentioning earlier about sometimes you come up with an idea in your youth and it actually pans out in the long run. There was a story that I was writing, and I couldn't tell how to actually make it meaningful. And while I was hammering out ideas, I decided to try and just create a name. And there was this guy at my church who had a very interesting name. I won't mention the name because it actually has a very deep meaning to the story, and it actually would reveal something about the story. So it's going to be under wraps until the story comes out. But he had a very interesting name. And to my, in my experiences, I've not come across a guy with the same name since. Well, it turns out it's actually a traditional name, one from the old world. And it actually has very deep lore to the name. And that becomes a compelling element of the story, which the story didn't really have a whole lot of real interest until that name became a part of the story. And then suddenly it created an entire driving narrative that conveys how the character's going to be behaving throughout the plot. So it's actually a really neat sort of addition that was kind of a ho-hum name to begin with. I just found kind of interesting that it actually panned out in the long run to now the point where it's actually driving a huge part of the story. I wonder what this guy's name will end up being in the long run. And will it be compelling, or will it be just kind of ho-hum? Hopefully, it is one of deep meaning. And maybe the name that Rico mentioned will be just perfect. There's a guy that I knew. He was given a name that was completely original. Nobody had ever been named that before. And his parents had ensured that his name would be 100% original. And so then people asked, well, what does your name mean? And he said, well, there is no meaning. My parents just named me it because they wanted it to be unique and original. And interestingly enough, the name actually sounds like it should be normal. It actually sounds fairly like it belongs in maybe Southern Asia sort of thing. But nope, it was completely original. Create that outline there. Names can be inspiring for sure, especially how unique it is. Like, someone could easily come along and say, oh, that critter should be named Beeve. And it's like, sure, is that an easy solution? Have I referred to him as Beeve? Yes. But it's not compelling. It doesn't strike you with as like an original name. It's just kind of a ho-hum name that anybody could have come up with. I heard that Disney is going to try and open up their 2D animation studio again. What I wouldn't have given to have gotten a chance to participate in that as for like internship, back in the day. Too late now. Chopper will be too easy. Yep. But like, here's an example of like where my brain goes for coming up with name originality. Paul, based upon Paul Bunyan, someone who chops down trees. But it's that sort of idea that's like, oh, that's where a lot of my inspiration wants to come from, is things like that. It's trying to find multiple ways that it can come about. So you have Paul as like the legend of Paul Bunyan chopping down trees and, being a logger. And then you have the other aspect, which is it is a very Christian name, which harkens to faith and family. It has dual purposes. But it's also very generic, and it's easy for people to remember. Maybe too generic. That's why it's going to take some thinking. I want it to have that sort of meaning, so we'll see. I don't want it to be like when Walt Disney was trying to think of Mickey Mouse and he says, Mortimer Mouse. It's like, why? Oh, I just think it's a cool name. No. Steamboat Willie, duh. Steamboat Willie is now in the public domain. You can make shorts about it. And now, that's the saddest thing. So, recently I saw something. It mentioned about what's happening to our kids. And it mentioned about that in the last couple of years, our entertainment has gotten horrifying and deeply evil. And someone was mentioning about how it's really tough being a kid because a lot of the things that you would have actually enjoyed growing up, or as a kid, just kind of enjoying it because, it's lighthearted, it's childish, and it's funny or whatnot, is becoming dangerous. And they mentioned about YouTube. So right now, there is a lot of AI garbage that's creating ElsaGate 2.0. And now you go onto YouTube and you type in like happy cats or something like that. Cat videos, and up pops a video about cats, and it's AI generated, and the kid starts watching it, and then the cat starts getting butchered, and the kid freaks out, and so the parent says, oh, well, here's something about Winnie the Pooh, and then Winnie the Pooh goes on a killing rampage. There's something sick in the mindset of people. That's one of the reasons why I want everything that I do. But that's one of the reasons why I'm not working for a studio, honestly. If I had to compromise morals on family and faith-based media, there's a very high chance that they would say, hey, you have to pay your dues. You have to actually, make the dark stuff. I'm like, no, I refuse. But there's a lot of places where you have to do this, where you have to create the dark stuff if you want to have a job. Well, sadly, a lot of places, including good places, actually have very dark sort of orders that you have to adhere to these terrible things. There was a Christian studio that I wanted to be a part of, and they were doing this nonsense. And so that's why I told my parents, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to wing it. I want to try and find a way to do things on my own. And they're like, you can't do that. You don't have the money, you don't have the resources. And I was like, well, figure it out along the way. But it's one of the biggest things that troubles me to this day is just how many places force you to compromise if you want to try and climb the ladder. Well, right now, if you want to create something with Steamboat Willie, good luck. I mean, if you want to make Steamboat Willie the TV show, and it's the adventures of Steamboat Willie, no one's going to watch that. No one's going to back it. But you make Steamboat Willie a killer, you make it a horror story, you've got people paying through the nose to make it happen. You want to make it into an inappropriate adult animation? Oh, you got millions of dollars you could get for that. Make a wholesome, family-friendly TV show off of it, you get in trouble. You lose all your finances. That's the sort of culture we're in. That's why you can have something like the stupid Winnie the Pooh version of Blood and Honey being made. It's because the sickness of mankind, when given ultimate freedom, will choose darkness. The actor that played Steve from Blue's Clues talked about it as well. There's no longer filtering that stuff as it should. Yeah. Again, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to take time over the last 2 years to create a website. I wanted to be able to make a place where, after watching a wholesome video, that you're not immediately bombarded by something dark and perverted. I was watching a video that I had created a couple years ago, and right after the show finished playing, immediately up came something that I didn't believe in, strongly didn't believe in, and they were just promoting it as the very next video you'd be watching. Shame on those companies. It's within their power and jurisdiction to fix, and they're not doing it. And honestly, shame on all the people who are the people that believe in freedom of speech so much that they will defend the most ultimate forms of depravity. There is limits to that sort of stuff. Everything has a limit. Not everything is good. You should be able to speak your mind, yes, but do not embrace evil. If someone else is going to do evil, let them do evil on their own. Don't come to their defense of it. I know it's not a super popular opinion, especially these days. There's a lot of people that are starting to wake up and they realize just how mankind just naturally will hearken to evil. We have to try and rise above to do what's right, regardless of what the world does. May God show mercy to us. And I hope and pray that if there is any success with these projects, if there's any success, it helps to put a dent in evil. It helps to put a dent in a culture that is tempting its youth in the same way that the Bible warns about people that want to tempt little ones, and that it would be better for a millstone to be put around their neck. I want to be able to offer an alternative to that sort of nonsense. And the people that should have been doing that to this point, who should have been involved with that whole industry, helping to correct it, they've not been doing it the way I would have expected. Some of them, it's like they weren't even trying. And others are trying, and they're getting thwarted. There was a film competition I got to participate in when I was in college. I did not get to do many. And I submitted how about that Angel Studios? There are some people that are really putting some good effort in. And I honestly do think there's some people that have done great good. Time will tell where everyone stands. But you're right, there are some people that are putting some good effort in. Really good effort. So there's a film competition I was in. The project concluded and we didn't even place. Understandably so. It was not high quality. But what was interesting about it, we did not win one award. We didn't get any sort of even People's Choice or something like that. But you know what was interesting? After it was said and done, and me and my partner, we were both walking out, and he had gotten me into the project because he needed help with visual effects, and the two of us spearheaded that thing from start to finish. And it wasn't anything fabulous, but it was wholesome-ish. Well, we got out of the theater in which all these awards had been given, and the people who had done murder mysteries and horrible, like spirit-bending, warping nonsense, those people all got placed in the awards, and we didn't get one thing. I kind of didn't think anything of it. My friend, he was all distressed by it. He's like, how did this happen? We should have gotten something. It's like, well, you can't sway these people. I mean, it wasn't as high quality as we wanted, but I mean, it wasn't anything we should be ashamed about. Well, we got outside, and we were met by some families. Now, most of the people who had been there were all college students. The people voting were professors and college students. And outside were the families who said thank you for making a wholesome short. We didn't even get a chance to stand up and be recognized for the show that we had made. They skipped over us. It was a mistake. They skipped right over us, and him and I were both looking at each other. I was like, did they do that intentionally? We didn't get the praise of the audience, of hundreds of people. But we got outside, and the people who had shown up with their kids were the ones that met us. And they noticed us. And they thanked us for it. It was at that moment that I realized there is a hunger for wholesome family entertainment. Wholesome. Ones that teach a lesson. But you won't find that in the studios. You won't find that among the average creators. You'll find that among a couple of people, but a lot of times they fall flat. A lot of times the studios don't last. A lot of times they're a little too narrow in some of their scope. I tell you what, if something were to take off, that friend of mine, I'm going to be reaching out to him and ask him if he wants to help out, if he wants to be a participant, because he understood wholesome in a meaningful way, and he never was able to really make things work. I've always kicked myself for that. Now, in some ways, things did work out for him. It worked out as God decided that they would work out. It inspired him, it gave him direction, it gave him all sorts of opportunities. But he never got the, you could say, the credit for having tried to do something of honor when others were so quick to just overlook it. Alright, so we're almost at the end of this, so thus I'm just going to colorize this guy a little bit and then call it there. Clipping layer. And change this to color. We're going to be streaming as we come to the conclusion of this for today. We're going to be streaming more often now that my schedule is opening up again. The goal is to try and do a couple of streams a week, 2 minimum, 3 average, 4 on a good week, and we'll see. We'll see what it looks like as things move forward, and when the product gets released, we may have a shift in direction. I hope there's a shift in direction. I want it to be a good shift, one that helps to solve some of the problems that I've been ranting about, and we'll see. We'll see if it works out. I'm not going to hold my breath. But if you do find interest in this sort of stuff, would you consider liking and subscribing? And if you don't, that's fine. If you're not a fan of this stuff, maybe you do like the other sort of media out there. You know what? Feel free to dislike. It at least means that you were here and that you actually showed an interest in what was being talked about or in the artwork that's being drawn, that sort of stuff. Maybe one day you'll get a chance to kind of bring some of these things to reality. But until that day, I'll just keep pressing on. All you can do is walk forward. And it is up to, honestly, it's up to God to decide whether or not you succeed or fail. And you shouldn't be bitter about it. You should realize that, you know what? Things pan out for a reason. And you never know. You never know what will happen with those ideas. Maybe those ideas, maybe God really does want you to have those ideas. But maybe not just yet. Maybe he wants you to think about it. To come up with some unique ideas that you wouldn't have done if you had just started from ground zero and immediately found success. You never know. You won't know, honestly, until you are hearing, well done. I hope I hear well done. That is the main goal, is to serve God in such a way that you do hear well done one day. Mankind's praise will not last. The only type of praise you should want is that of God's. I'm out of practice for the coloring. Alright, so now I'm going to give it a blue wash, so that way it looks like he's underwater. And now add that to his environment. Slightly greenish. And then some last minute highlights. Well, I don't know if we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to try and be back tomorrow. It depends on what time I get back to the house. But if you have ideas, folks, for what this little critter can be named, I am all ears. I'm going to be very critical about my final decision, and a lot of it's going to be inspired based upon whether or not there is deep philosophical meaning to it, or if there is a sense of creativity to it that carries deep meaning, things like that. I'm looking for that sort of stuff. So if you have those sorts of ideas, feel free to send them my way. And if you are interested in doing creative stuff, we have a couple of community projects that are coming up. And it's going to be fairly... Some of them are fairly simple. Some of them are a little bit more complex with some opportunities for growth. One of those is the Blender Challenge. That got started earlier this year, and we're going to be doing more with that as time goes on. Another thing is to look out for the website when it gets announced. There is a website right now, but it doesn't have any of the big changes. The website is minimum of 4 times larger than what it once was, and has some massive changes behind the scenes for how it functions as a whole. So if you are interested in seeing some of the content that comes out, by all means, be sure to look forward to when that happens and give it a look. It might not have content out immediately, but it will slowly over this year be having more stuff put onto there. The last thing to mention about is that the next Lego animation, now that I have some time again, I'm going to go back to rendering that. Afterwards, we're going to be getting prepared for the short that should have come out last year, but are going to now be rekindling that, and that is the short called Spooked. Spooked is going to come out hopefully around October, and this is the time of year to start preparing for that. But yeah, so all right, folks, almost there. Typical, you keep seeing things that you want to update here and there. Almost. Okay, fill that in, and then darken. Why is that color like that? Oh. There we go. All right. A little scuba diving beaver. Have a good night, Mr. Jeff. Good catching up. Thanks for stopping by, Rico. Well, definitely hope that hope and pray you find some good success with that job application. And yeah, see you next time, whenever that is. To the rest of you, thanks for coming by. Whether you see this now or later, have a wonderful evening. I'm going to share this on social media in a moment. I'm going to do a couple more tweaks once we get off stream, but because I have no idea how much longer I'm going to be tweaking this thing at this rate. All right, let me see. I think, yes, okay, we can actually do a raid over on Twitch for the first time in a long time. Pull this up. And the Rumble side, we're not going to be raiding, I don't think. All right. Setting up the raid for number 1. And yeah, we're not going to raid on the Rumble side. But thanks, folks, for coming by. Have a very blessed evening and morning, everybody. Be civil to one another. And we will see you next time, whenever that is.
You're just jealous you didn't think of it first.
Until next time, folks, have a very blessed evening.